Welcome back to Ibogaine Uncovered, and I'm your host, Talia Eisenberg. Today I'm joined by Norman Ohler, the best-selling German author and historian known for Blitzed, the groundbreaking book that revealed the hidden role of drug use in the Third Reich and reshaped how we understand modern history. Norman came to Beond not as a researcher, but as a writer deeply curious about the architecture of his own mind and how Ibogaine might influence creativity, perception, and narrative. In this conversation, we explore the writer's mind on Ibogaine, how the medicine reshaped his inner landscape, strengthened neural pathways connected to his creative work, and altered how he experiences memory, language, and meaning. We talk about his experience at Beond, what he observed in himself and others, and how Ibogaine influenced his sense of clarity, presence, and creative flow. This is an intimate conversation about creativity, consciousness, and what happens when a writer known for exploring altered states steps into one of the most powerful journeys on Earth. All right, well, it's wonderful to have you here on Ibogaine Uncovered at Beond. It's been
my pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's been really nice to see your process, too, through your Ibogaine experience with us. In general, I'm very curious, first of all, about the writer's mind and the creative process in Ibogaine. But I think we can go back to you wrote a book, was a New York Times bestseller. Congratulations. I think it was translated into 30 languages. It was called Blitzed, and it's about the drug use in Nazi Germany. Can you just share a little bit about that for the audience?
Yes, I mean, drugs and history are an interesting topic in general. How did drugs influence us as humans and our history? And I focused in this book, Blitzed, on, very particular time period, 12 years, from 1933 to 1945, when the fascists were ruling my country, Germany. And I had been educated quite well in high school about it, because we have like this mantra, never again, which is good. We don't want fascism again. So we were very well educated, but drugs never played any role. So when I first heard through coincidence that there was a massive drug abuse in Nazi Germany, I didn't believe it. But then I did some research and I went into archives and I found a lot of documents showing that the German army, the Wehrmacht, systematically used methamphetamine for their early war victories. And so I was the first person to actually properly examine this and write about it, and also about Hitler's drug abuse. Hitler always portrayed himself as this pure being, the teetotaler. He wouldn't even drink coffee. He was vegetarian. He was just like a pure vessel working for the German people. That was the Nazi propaganda. And when I read the notes of his personal physician, I found that it was a complete myth, that Hitler was actually an opioid addict. In fact, he was using oxycodone, which at the time was a German product, because it is a German invention. So that was all very interesting, and that led to that book Blitzed, which then was also of interest to many other people, because it shows a much more precise picture of the so-called Third Reich. It doesn't change any evaluation of their horrible doings, but it shows more clearly how it actually happened.
How they were able to carry this out, because meth and opiates numb people, of course, and you can get more work done. There's no empathy. It's really fascinating that you helped uncover this. I myself, like coming from, Holocaust survivors, it was to hear how this was carried out. It makes sense. So,
I mean, I always try to examine how drugs specifically influenced the Holocaust, but I didn't find any documents. But there is reports that, for example, concentration camp guards were drinking a lot and using Pervitin to be able to drink more. Pervitin was the brand name for meth. So when you're methed up and a bit drunk, then you can like stand in the watchtower for like hours and watch. And so, but mostly it was really influential especially for the strategy of the war advances, because you could keep the soldiers up for like a long period of time, and the enemy, the opponents, the Western allies or the Soviet Union didn't have this drug at they didn't have it. So that was a tactical advantage for the German army.
Right, it helped them progress faster. So this became a New York Times bestseller, and now maybe you can share a little bit more about why drugs are in your opinion, why drugs are so popular right now.
Well, drugs have always been popular. Humankind is unthinkable without drugs. We are the creatures of the big brain, and the big brain always wants to, very complex brain wants to be stimulated. We're the beings of transformation, of change. So whenever we find drugs, iboga back in the day, or at one point opium was discovered on Crete.
Acacia is supposed to be the tree of life in the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, we live on a planet with very potent plants. Potent in this case means some plants contain molecules which are basically information structures. And if we intake them, this information changes something in our brain, in our consciousness. So people, of course, have always been interested in this and have always used it. Also, alcohol is a prime example of cultural change. When beer was first brewed, that was a big change. Suddenly, people were drunk; they started to behave differently. Different types of violence, for example, came up. So different hierarchies came up. Priests were coming up. So drugs have like influenced the culture throughout the millennia. That's what I'm working on in my new book, Stoned Sapiens, which is a complete new history of humankind, looking at how drugs actually shaped our destiny, our history, and our future also. Yeah. That's why it's so interesting right now, because we're still interested in drugs. Now we know a lot more because we have scientists, we have tools to really look into the brain, what is happening in the brain. So we can see very clearly that certain drugs, for example, cocaine or methamphetamine, they work on the dopamine household. So while other drugs, psychedelic drugs like LSD or mushrooms, they change the energy level in a way that makes the brain more plastic. Neuroplastic, not plastic, neuroplastic, which is good. So we understand much more about drugs. That's why you get more and more interested in it. We're looking for medicines against dementia, against depression, against trauma. And that's why there's the so-called psychedelic renaissance right now. And there's also a new kid on the block, which is Ibogaine, which is actually the oldest kid on the block, because iboga is, in my opinion, a very, very, very old drug. So I think it's fascinating what's happening right now.
Before we get into iboga and ibogaine, I'm curious about your own, your writer's mind, and when you first realized that you were a writer.
Well, that was when I was a late teenager, after I realized I was not going to be a tennis professional because I was not good enough. I was pretty good, but the last step was missing. I just couldn't compete with the really good people. And I always had an interest in literature, so I kind of just switched from tennis to writing. And then I, wanted to at least be world class in writing, and no one keeps you back. You just have to write really good, or you have to write a really good book, I guess. So that was my goal, to write the perfect book where every word is where it should be, and the story is great, and the characters are good. That's the challenge. And some writers have achieved that. Some books are perfect, and they were examples for me, like The Stranger by Camus, one of these perfect novels. But this was not connected to drugs yet. I was just trying to write. But writing is very difficult. It's very lonely. It's very, not boring, but it's kind of tedious. You need a lot of discipline. And at the same time, you need inspiration. You need to have the coolest style possible. So to get the coolest style possible, I was listening to like Lou Reed and music, and then suddenly the drugs came into play, like they taking drugs. Maybe that's why they're so cool.
Maybe that'll help me be a better writer. Maybe I should try it.
Maybe, yeah. So I started smoking like cigarettes that I rolled myself when I was 19, and that already was good. Smoking, I think, is good for writing. Might be bad for the lungs, but for writing, it's good. I don't smoke anymore, but back in the day, it helped me to.
It's great for thinking.
Yeah, I smoked a
Focus.
cigarette. I was writing my first novella. And then when I wrote my first novel, I had left Germany by then. I was 23. I moved to Manhattan, to the Lower East Side. And the novel was progressing. It was good. But then my girlfriend at the time gave me LSD. And I had no idea what that was. I'd never taken a drug, just, self-rolled cigarettes. So, and it was a really strong tab. And I took this LSD, and it probably changed my life. I had the most extreme horror trip that I could have imagined. Like, it was really scary. I was walking in downtown Manhattan at night, and I saw things that are they are there, they're structurally there: violence, racism, abuse, alienation. I saw all of these things, even though I was walking through a normal Saturday night in Manhattan. But I had extreme hallucinations, visions, and I didn't know if it would end because I had no idea what LSD was. I just thought, no, I'm crazy, basically. I'm crazy, and I see that everything's.
I'm stuck this way forever.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
what I.
ask you, was it because you were in the Lower East Side? Because that alone at night
Well, it's
is scary
and
for
that was
us.
back in the day. It was a lot of freaks outside. I saw a lot of freaks, so I realized the world is not what I thought it was. And but then I came back to myself after like 12 hours. Slowly, it faded. It was very strong, but it did fade. And then I thought, this was really interesting. What did I see? What was that? So I kind of stayed interested in especially LSD and took it not over and over again, but once in a while I would take it to. And now I understand that LSD actually decreases the energy flow to the default mode network, so other parts of the brain are more active, which leads to different perceptions, different thoughts. And that, of course, is great for a writer.
Yeah,
So,
how did these experiences with LSD change your mind as a writer? How did it help you organize and make sense of the world, patterns, characters, metaphors?
well, it doesn't help me to organize, really. I mean, maybe by now, but at the time it was just disorganizing. So my beautiful plan for this novel was kind of thrown up in the air and swirled around, and also my perceptions. How would I describe something? So I did a lot of rewriting after the LSD, and I organized my first novel as a hypertext because I wanted to suddenly break away from the hierarchy of the writer as the authority telling a story from A to B, and the reader has to follow. I created actually the first hypertext novel in literature history, which I then published myself online in 1995. I made a clickable map of Manhattan, and wherever you clicked on the map, you entered the story, which was a detective novel, at a different entry point, and connected the dots by yourself. And so every reader had a different reading experience trying to solve the case. That was a great idea. That was kind of an LSD idea, and so it just really, you could say, it broadened my horizon and how stories could be told and what the world is and what I was in the world. So it was a learning process that started back then.
Yeah, it sounds like it helped you create almost a new genre of writing that was more experiential, which is very cool. So let's talk a little bit about your experience here at Beyond the last many days. I'm curious. I've seen you writing a lot. You have a little piece of paper that's sort of folded over, and you're taking copious notes through various activities. Like we have, workshops where clients are you're sharing their experience. I see you taking notes. I see you taking notes during lunch. But one thing you said to me that was interesting was that so there's this tension between having your own as a writer experience, you're observing others, versus your own inner journey, of course. I'd love to hear more about that and how you were able you mentioned to me it was like a 50-50 experience you were trying for there, how you were able to navigate that.
Well, I mean, in the end, it's really a 95 to 5%. I'm really interested in myself here, which everyone should be, because the Ibogaine journey is an introspective journey where everyone learns about him or herself. And but I do, for example, have a Substack. I can highly recommend the Stoned Sapiens Substack, and I write stories. So I will write Substack posts also about my stay here at Beond. So it is interesting. I mean, I like it here at Beond also because you get in touch with other people, so you hear their stories, and so that is very interesting, and that's also very healing to be part of that healing community. Um, and I also did like podcasts with people here, which was great. So that I recorded for my own for my DopeCast. That's the name of my podcast. Um, so to be in this community is very good, but mostly really it's about my own healing process. And it's my second time taking Ibogaine, and the first time, which was 3.5 months ago, was very much driven by my intentions. Like, I wanted to stop my severe cannabis addiction. I wanted to check out my early childhood, what happened, why am I so tense, which then leads to cannabis and all sorts of other things. Why am I so stressed when there's no real reason? So I had a lot of questions, and the first Ibogaine journey gave me a lot of answers, which was really helpful and which I know now. But I realized that these answers still they made me calmer and more relaxed and more healthy, but I wasn't there yet. I needed to implement all of my understanding physically, because trauma also had a very difficult episode with my second child, which caused trauma, and my partner at the time. So all of these things I understood, but now here at Beond in the second experience, I wanted to incorporate them into my physical being, and I thought this is what I'm going in for the flood dose, as it's called. So when the flood dose, the Ibogaine started, I kind of tried to work this out, and basically Ibogaine said within like 2 minutes, just showed me. I thought it would be a very complicated, painful physical process to kind of get to my emotional core, but it was totally easy, actually. And Ibogaine was kind of laughing at me like, "You're done," like after 2 minutes. Not 2 minutes, but it was pretty quick that I had kind of figured out my kids, my life, my love life, my childhood, the trauma. Like it was clear how I would implement that and how I would go forward. So I was like lying there, and I knew I had like 6 to 8 hours more of the journey. So what am I gonna do now? And I had no visions the second time. So I thought, this is actually not so great. I'm done now. I have no visions. What's going on? But suddenly I thought, well, I might as well, look at my upcoming books. Maybe I can structure them better. Because on Ibogaine, you can think very, very clearly. It's a drug, a medicine that does not in any way create an intoxication. Like, unlike LSD, ketamine, DMT, where you're tripping. You're also tripping on Ibogaine, but you're still totally sober at the same time.
Even without you having visions, you felt like you were tripping. You could feel the effects.
Yeah, I could feel the effects, and it was very good. I just was missing the visions. So I actually asked for more, because I thought then the visions would come, but they gave me 2 more pills, the doctor, but they didn't come.
And you were organizing your future books and looking.
Yeah, and then I was organizing my future books, and then it turned into the most beautiful writing trip that I've ever had. So for 6 hours, I was just organizing Stoned Sapiens. I've already written the first draft, so now I could look through the whole draft and kind of decide how I structure it, and I did some restructuring, and I also found like the tone, and I found sentences that should be in it, and chapter headlines, and this is really hard work, actually, usually.
Incredible that you were able to pull on the manuscript during the Ibogaine and go
Yeah.
through sentence by sentence.
Well, not sentence by sentence, but like not sentence by sentence. I could look through it, like theme by theme, basically. So I had the whole book kind of in front of me. And then I have another, after Stoned Sapiens, I have another book coming up, and I had thoughts about that one. And then I have a third book, which is like a big novel I'm going to write after these two books, which in the first journey, I was cheeky enough to ask Ibogaine what should be my next big book. And it said it with the title. So I was like now working on this third book, and it gave me a lot of insights about this third book. So for me, that was perfect, because personally I felt good. I didn't have any more personal issues, and work, which is next to my kids and my love, the most important thing in my life. I got so many answers. So in the morning, I thought this is like $1 million what I just wrote down in my notebook. And since then I've been carrying my notebook. I mean, I'm trying to overcome anxiety. The only anxiety I now have is that I'm gonna lose my notebook with all these, because these thoughts are, I cannot remember this. Like, so many things happen, and I wrote them down, and it was really intricate. But I'm not gonna lose it. And I even scanned it this morning with my phone. So
That's like your greatest fear. It's priceless.
it's priceless. Yeah. So the experience for me was priceless. And then after the flood dose, I had a coaching session here with one of your beautiful, just amazing Beond coaches. And she taught me, like, she understood that I was looking for relaxation, that my peripheral nervous system is the problem, because it always goes back into the tension. Even if you understand where the tension comes from, your body goes back to that stress routine. But she taught me a breathing technique, how to release that stress. And together with the Ibogaine, like, it's not just taking Ibogaine here at Beyond, it's the whole protocol. It's the massages, it's the water, body work, it's the lessons, the coaching lessons, the breathing techniques. So that, like, that little thing from her made me feel that yesterday, for the first time in my life, I formulated the sentence, "I am healed," which is kind of absurd for a human to say, because we're always changing and transforming, but I do feel healed. And so I'm very thankful for this experience, and to you also for having me here, and Tom. I really appreciate it, and I feel great. It was wonderful, one of the best experiences of my life. I can only compare it to holding my daughter in my arms after she was born. That was also wonderful. So this is big.
That's really good to hear that it's been so powerful for you. Yeah, it's an honor to be able to help so many, and I think it's important for people to hear that it's not just taking Ibogaine like a pill the way the Western doctors give it. And it's important, what you do around the Ibogaine and the various healing modalities.
It is, because the brain gets so neuroplastic when you start doing it. And even before, going into it, you need very careful care, tender care around it. Like, you can't take Ibogaine and then go outside and drive to the airport or something.
No, that's right. It is like you're a baby again. So you have to be and with your nervous system,
it's very soft and
brand new, and the parasympathetic, and learning how to breathe and work through issues that will come up that in the past would have propelled you to
Ibogaine needs a ritual.
a ritual.
Yeah. And you have designed one, so it's good.
Thank you for saying that. So let's talk a little bit about your I know you said it was 95% inner, but I'm curious, as a writer, your observation of other guests on site, and being with guests who have various issues here. Some people come more for creativity and for focus, or maybe some burnout. Others are here for severe trauma. We have an athlete cohort here right now who has they have chronic pain pre-dementia, I think, from TBI, MMA fighters. And of course, there's various dependencies. I'm just curious, if you can think of a story about one of the guests who touched you that you'd like to share about.
Well, the first day there was a walking exercise. So I like walking, so I just went. We did like a 1 hour walk through the neighborhood, and I was walking next to Jason, which I didn't know before, but he introduced himself as Jason from Arizona, and he told me that his neck was broken during his duty as a National Coast Guard chasing drug smugglers in the Pacific, and that he had had severe pain for, I think, 14 years, daily pain, because his neck is broken. I mean, they fixed it, but he just had daily migraines. So he was kind of curious if it's really going to work. And we did the flood dose together. And his experience is very interesting, totally different than mine, obviously. For him, it ended with an incredible headache. But the headache then stopped. Like he said, he was just kind of cut off, like from 1 second to the next. Worst headache of his life ever. Cut, total peace, no more pain. And since then he has no pain in his neck, and he's the happiest person walking around here because he had daily pain, and now he's pain free. And that is like almost, you could say, a miracle, because he tried everything, like in the last 14 years. He went to every doctor, he tried yoga, meditation, like he tried everything and nothing worked. And he just took Ibogaine once and the pain was gone. I think that's quite striking.
Yeah, what do you think is happening there? How can you explain it?
Well, I believe in the term coined by Professor Dalibor Sames from Columbia University, who's also here right now, and he's been researching ibogaine for 20 years, and he calls it matrix pharmacology. So the ibogaine molecule, when it enters our head, it kind of finds the areas that are afflicted, and then works on these areas. How exactly it heals them, I don't know, and we still don't know so much about it, because it's also very hard to research how it actually works. But it does seem to, reset the brain and reconfigure broken pathways, and so it's a very efficient medicine. It works within a few hours. I don't think there's another molecule like this on the. I mean, there could be, but we don't know of any other molecule on this planet that is as effective. And it's beautiful to take. It's a lot of fun also to take it, except for the guy had a headache, but that's unusual. Usually you just feel great while it's healing you. He had to pay a little price of a terrible headache, but I guess his problem was very severe.
Yeah.
So it probably it probably hurt, to fix it. Sometimes it hurts.
It brought out all the pain in a moment, and then the pain is gone.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of pathways, let's talk about your creative pathways. Do you feel different now than you did prior to coming? And as a writer, how will that be applied to your creative process? I know you have Stoned Sapiens coming up. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that book and how Iboga plays in some of your research and how you might see it differently than before.
Well, I got a lot more insights into the early usage of Iboga. I mean, these were visions that I had when I saw like early takers of Iboga in Africa quite a long time ago. So it made me understand better what might have happened.
So your thesis, just for the audience so that everyone knows, is that Iboga evolved the human consciousness and brain over the last 100,000 years. That's one part of the book. I think you write about other drugs, but is that right?
Yeah.
And you had visions that showed you that, and it's a
Yeah.
research book, so that could be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, in general, it just made me more calm, relaxed, and happy. I don't know if that's good for writing. That has to be shown. I think it's good. I write best when I'm in a good mood. I don't believe that writers have to suffer to be creative. I'm most creative when I feel great. So I'm looking forward to now finishing the book in the next couple of months, and I think I'm very well prepared to do that. And I think the book will end at Beond, probably. I think that's a good. From here, it goes into the future.
So really sharing with people how, like, modern psychedelic medicine and Ibogaine, how it started with Iboga.
Yeah, it comes full circle now.
So we can expect that book in 2026 or?
Probably not, because America is such a slow country. So when I deliver the manuscript, let's say in April 26, they take about a year to put it on market. So probably spring 27.
Right, spring.
But in the meantime, you can check out the Stoned Sapiens Substack, because you will be informed of the development of the book.
Great. Okay, so coming in for a landing, as a storyteller, what advice would you give other creatives planning to do psychedelic journey work?
I think Ibogaine is probably the best, because it's so introspective and you can really think about yourself. And it's very important as a writer to understand yourself, because then you understand other people better, and that makes you a better writer. But I think also, other psychedelics could be great. Like LSD it's much more easy to take. Just take it in nature and walk around. So I mean, there's also writers who don't even need any drugs, because they're so sensitive. But I'm not one of those, so I need drugs, psychedelics, not other drugs. I think every writer has to find his or her own way to creativity. It could also be meditation or yoga or love or swimming.
Great. Good. That's very helpful. Well, it's been an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much. And for anyone looking for Norman, where can we find you?
Well, yeah, as I said, the Substack is the best, because I really enjoy this format and I publish quite a lot. But you can also, I don't even want to mention any of these horrible drugs called social media. So just go to the bookshop and get maybe Tripped, the new book about the early history of LSD. That's very interesting. And I also have a signed copy for you as a small thank you. I'll give it to you later.
Thank you. That's very sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you.